Private equity is one of the most opaque industries that there is. And when you combine highly competitive, high quality firms going after a limited amount of top talent, you get a very chaotic and rushed recruiting process. Now, there's also no governing body, there's no stakeholder managing this process, so all these firms are sort of left to the whims of game theory. Now, private equity as an industry is very high pay, it has high job security and very good business school placement, so it attracts people from the top investment banks. And from what I've seen in North America, specifically in New York and San Francisco, at least 50% of people in investment banks try to go for private equity. Note here, we're talking about investment banking analysts. That's people only 1 or 2 years out of school. The vast majority of these analysts are going to try to recruit, and most of the time that's into private equity. So you have a lot of competition going for these spots, and that's why the firms are allowed to make the timeline as crazy as it is. So let's go back to 2007, 2008, around the time of the financial crisis. A lot of the firms back then would recruit maybe 12 months, 13 months in advance of their job start. That gave investment banking analysts the time to do deals, to learn about private equity, to sort of talk to the different people and industry professionals so they could really understand what the process is like. Now, over time, this has become more competitive and more competitive. Every single year, it got slightly more aggressive. And by the way, signing a job for over a year in advance is already pretty insane. That means you sign the job offer and you don't start for another 12 or 13 months. And for a while, the timeline seemed to kind of stabilize at maybe the 16 to 17 month range, about a year and a half in advance, which is still crazy, but at least it gave people something relatively stable to think about. But over the last 4 to 5 years, something crazy has happened. Every single year, the timeline seems to be pushed up an additional month or 2 months. Last year, for recruiting, it kicked off in September. That means you're recruiting for jobs only 3 or 4 months into investment banking, for jobs that you won't even start for another 2 years. It's hard to understand exactly why it's accelerating at this rate. But there's more firms entering the industry, more money is being raised, and that's altogether just increasing the pressure that goes into this process. Honestly, the process has gotten so out of hand that some headhunters are even reaching out to senior students, people still in college that maybe have an upcoming investment banking offer but haven't even hit the desk. Some firms will even hold events for these students in anticipation of jumping the gun. So what are you supposed to do as a candidate trying to break into private equity? Well, one thing you can do is be prepared technically. Now, we've just put a course on our website that dives in how to do an LBO model, how to talk and think about business, as well as how to deal with aggressive headhunters. So you can check that out at peakframeworks.com. One thing I noticed when I was recruiting for private equity is the crazy information asymmetry that a lot of candidates go through. Some people have direct help, they're part of the right fraternities, part of the right banks, and they knew exactly what was going on. But a lot of people didn't know, myself included, and it is so much harder when you don't have that information. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, private equity recruiting is not easy. There's a lot of information asymmetry, and there's also just a lot of technical information that you need to know. But if you're willing to put in the hard work, then you can do it. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.